Tony Hawkins has got a podcast. I hope he's better at this than he is washing the kit, because he was fucking useless.
Well, been a bit of a quiet week this week, but thankfully, Tony, we have got a load of people asking us questions, Tony.
We have got a lot of input.
I'm going to dive straight in with that. I've got one here from MK Don's Paul, and he's concerned about the size of the Quality Street Rosie's stroke celebration tins at Christmas. I've got another one here from Jonathan Harris, and he says, losing to both Barton and the other bloke who we can't be mentioned in the same week is a low point. I can't argue with that. God, that just done me on bloody Saturday, seeing that bastard stood in the touchline, you know. Anyway, that is what it is. Another one here from...
Let's address the Christmas chocolates first.
Go on, quickly.
Look for deals, like 2 for a $5 or whatever.
Oh, right.
There's some decent deals going on at the moment, so... They may be smaller, but you can buy multiples for deals. So
I've got one here from Dan, who we had on, was it last week, a couple of weeks ago? He's said that Dot's funeral episodes on EastEnders were a lot better than anything in football. I didn't realise old Dot had snuffed it.
Oh, I watched Coronation Street.
I don't watch
the
any
podcast last week.
I'm an Archers man, Tony, you know that.
I dropped the remote on the floor and I couldn't bother to pick it up.
You couldn't do what?
I sat through an episode of Coronation Street. It was terrible.
Here's a pertinent one, Tony. Someone here called Jimmy James, and he would love to hear our views on nuclear fusion.
This is in relation to
the cold
how it
fusion
improved
thing.
the Bovril, isn't it?
I think it's the cold fusion business. It was on the news yesterday and this morning.
Well, I think, you see, there is something in that, because I'm pretty sure that McDonald's used to heat their apple pies using...
I thought so.
So maybe get in touch with McDonald's to see what the secret is of heating things up to several million degrees.
I'm going to go and get a couple of them and shove them in my gloves, because when I go out, bloody, that would keep you warm, wouldn't it?
That'd keep you warm for hours.
Another one here. Now, this is the West Brom 13. At the away game where there were so few Dons fans who were put in the director's box. Whatever happened to them? That's Friars 1890s asking that question.
They put them in the director's box?
Yeah, apparently. The West Brom 13. That sounds like a rap crew to me, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. It sounds like the 13 what?
I've just had 13 fans, you bloody idiot. Put 2 and 2 together. You're the mathematics genius.
Yeah, but no, if they're a gang, what's the 13 relate to?
Well, I've got one here, but I'm keeping it for later on because it is actually pertinent to what we're going to talk about. Someone here.
I've just seen a tweet by Albie, actually.
Oh, what does it say? Hello, I'm an idiot.
Well, it's not. It's several emojis. You know, like ooh, I wonder sort of emojis.
Oh, right.
And a picture of Richie Barker.
Ooh,
I'd like to piss all over that immediately if I can, Albie.
Oh, sorry, I'm watching the French game.
And inform you that Richie never, ever again wants to be a manager.
So he didn't do it then, so what was saying?
That's straight from the horse's mouth. The only attraction to coming to Milton Keynes that it gets him, because he's gradually moving closer to home. You see, because he told his wife many years ago that after MK Dons, that was him done, and he would move back home because he lives. I can't say where he lives because that's personal information, isn't it? But anyway, he lives in the south, so he would be getting closer by coming here. But he told me a few years ago that he had no desire to ever be a manager again.
I don't blame him. Not here anyway. That's for sure.
Can't see it, Albie. Can't see it.
Right, one last one.
I read his message now?
Well, I've got one last one here, Tony, from Tassie, your old mate Tassie. And she has said, it's a bit of praise for us, Tony. She said she's in awe of our ability to talk about anything but the football. She says, continue on any subject.
It is a genuine talent.
It is, yeah. What, talking bollocks?
On a football podcast to not talk about football.
Talk about football. And specifically, to not talk about the actual team that the podcast is about. It's a talent, Tony.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about... Oh, that was almost 2-0.
Oh, are you still about 3 minutes behind me? Because that happened about 3 minutes ago. Here.
Oh, right. Well, keep it quiet then. I
Oh,
don't
well,
hear. In fact, I will do the cheering.
Right, okay. And I'll look
It's not
round.
going to work, is it? It's not going to work.
Tony, we've got a guest this week and you've not even mentioned him.
Oh, good evening.
Alright, Colin. It's Colin Butler, Tony, in case you don't recognise him.
It's Bolling Cutler.
That's the way man.
Yeah. I'm the unknown man of Milton Keynes.
Can you talk bollocks about stuff that's not football, Colin? I bet you can.
Well, I can talk bollocks about most things, but I prefer to talk bollocks about football because I'm quite fluent in it.
Right, what are we going to do? Shall we wait? Well, we've put it off long enough. He's gone, Tone. He has departed these shores.
He has. And whose fault is it? Not his.
Not his, no.
Not his, no.
Well, that's controversial, isn't it? Because, I just want to say, you haven't let me speak, really, so I just want to say there are a lot of people out there that think he's entirely at fault.
Is there a lot? I don't think there's a lot.
I don't think it's a lot, is it?
I just want to add, I'm not one of them.
No, I'm definitely not.
I'm blaming him.
We've seen what he can do with decent players, and there's the difference between the level of player that we've got this season and what we had last season doesn't even bear comparison, does it?
No, not at all. Not one bit.
Yep.
There's not one person that we've got this year that is any way an upgrade or even of a similar ability to the 14 that we lost last season. Not at all. No, not one.
No. Saturday was interesting because there were a few discussions about is this his last chance and we shouldn't be losing today, etc., etc. And I heard something very interesting. And if I could remember who the player was that said it, I would say their name because I think it's disgusting. But anyway, it was someone who wasn't playing, and I can't remember who it was, so I don't know if they were on the bench or not.
And he got ginger hair?
No. They were asked, are you, you're not bothered about not playing today? He said, don't bother me. I earn my $2,000 a week sitting on the bench or playing on the pitch or wherever. Tell me that is telling.
We've said it on here till I'm blue in the face saying it, but they're not good enough. I don't even think, and I'm not saying this because I'm a bit angry, because, Colin, I don't really give a shit any longer. I genuinely don't think that some of them are actually good enough for league football at all. I think they would be, they would flatter to deceive if they were in, the bloody conference. Some of them are just absolutely terrible. Is it atrocious?
We've said it many times. There's a lot of talent. We know that, but what is it? Is it a lack of experience? Is it youth? Is it not giving a shit, not caring, or?
Well, I would think what you've just said. If one of them's sitting on the bench saying, "Yeah, I'll earn my money sitting here, I don't care," then it's just a combination of arrogance and just not giving a shitness. To be quite honest.
Yeah. I've heard. I don't know whether Tony, you might have picked some of this up. I've heard there's been falling out sessions. How true they are. People always say things like, "Oh, he's lost the dressing room." How the bloody hell anybody would ever know that? I don't know.
No, it's impossible. It's impossible to know unless you're actually in.
Yeah, of course it is.
And even when I was there, the day Carl went, it wasn't. So the way that I saw it was, Carl had done as much as he could, and it was past the point of no return, much the same as just now.
Yeah.
It wasn't that the players didn't want to play for him or they were disagreeing with anything he said. I've spoken to players who have been unhappy. I spoke to Stephen Gleeson years ago before he was a regular in the squad, and he was absolutely fuming and he was saying all sorts of things about Carl. But that you expect that from a player who thinks that he should be in the team, and that's exactly the attitude to have. Yeah. I should be, and I've known players to go into the manager's office and say, "Why am I not playing?" Or "I should be playing this Saturday," or I
admire
that. That's different from I still get my $2,000 a week whether I'm sitting on the bench not playing or I'm on the pitch. Yeah. That's entirely different. That's someone who wants to play for the team and wants to contribute to, and they believe that they will make the team better by playing. So,
can I ask you two both a question? A statement came out. I don't know. I never heard it, but a few people have said they heard in the Pete Winkleman interview with Luke Ashmead that Pete said that there's been more spent on the squad this year than there was this season than there was last season. Do you believe that? I've got a theory that might be true, and I'm going to explain that might. But do you think in the interim that do you believe that?
I could see it from the point of view that we've got less loanees.
Oh, that was the point I was going to make, because Parrott come in, Kioso, there was Coventry. They were probably having the bulk of their wages paid by their club. So
it is unusual. It's unusual. I mean, I can't remember who it was now, but it was something silly like Patrick Bamford. I think actually might have been Patrick Bamford, who was rumoured to be on 8k a week at Chelsea at the time. Yeah. And we were paying something like £250 a week towards his wages.
Yeah.
And so there's massive, huge savings to be made. Obviously, it's not good for the overall future of that player at our club.
Yeah.
However, it is a good way to save money in terms of wages. So if you've got fewer loan players and therefore you're paying much less in wages, and if you're paying some child £2,000 a week to sit on the bench or not play at all, then if that is the case, and I'm saying £2,000 a week because that's what he told this person that told me, so I can only imagine that there is a certain amount of parity between those new players, and that could well be the truth. So
that was my theory on the situation. When I sat and thought about it, I thought, well, there is a possibility. I mean, even coming today, he's probably on a good whack from Chelsea. So, I mean, people are saying we should sign him, and do you reckon he'll sit around? Do you reckon he'll? I mean, there's.
Oh, well, let's be honest. If he's released by Chelsea, he's not staying here, because he can go to a Championship club at worst for a much bigger wages, and that's what his main concern will be. It's all It's great that he came back here, but again, if we're being completely honest, he's probably done that because he knew that he would be starting every week. And he's familiar with the club, and he's familiar with the manager at the time. But even so, even if he didn't come here, he would certainly be somewhere else starting, and it could well be a Championship team, because I think he's good enough to do that. It's interesting, actually, just going slightly off topic, that Cumming doesn't seem as comfortable as he did last season again.
Well, I was going to say, I've just been sort of writing my preview of the game for Saturday. And I've been looking back at some of the games, and it almost seems like every shot on target on our goal is going in.
I mean, that one on Saturday, the first goal on Saturday, how I saw it, and I have seen the replay, but it looked to me that they just let him sort of take that sidestep and slot it in the car, and it looked to me as if Jamie Cumming didn't move. But to be fair, when you look at the replay, you can see that there are two defenders between him and the bloke that took the shot, so he would have seen it very late. But I don't know. It just reminds me of something that Dave Martin said years back. And Dave had a great influence on the team, and the manager was, he was listening. He would always listen to Dave and Louis and Potts about their opinions on players, and I'm pretty sure that they would have some influence on who would be playing in front of them. And I know for a fact that one player in particular was dropped from the squad because he just didn't. The back four and the goalkeeper didn't feel comfortable with that particular player in his position. So Jamie Cumming, I don't necessarily think would have that sort of sway with the manager, and Liam Manning might have been the sort of manager who didn't necessarily listen to players, or wouldn't listen to a player like that, or a player that's on. I don't know, but we know that we don't know, and I don't even know if the phrase "lost the dressing room" is a thing. It certainly has. It certainly was with Dan Machici. That was the bloke, bless him, was well out of his depth. We know that. And
massively. I had lunch with Dan Machichi shortly after he started, and he sat there, and all he seemed to be really worried about was, do the fans like me? Do the fans like me? Do the fans trust me? And I went, Jesus Christ, Dan, you ain't ever going to get this job done, mate, if you're just sitting there worrying about what the fans think of you.
Well, you say that. Carl used to ask me that all the time.
He's still,
right, did he? Okay.
Yeah. He's still asking you that now, Tony.
Yeah, not so much do the fans like me, but what are the fans saying?
And well, he's only got to read the concrete roundabout.
Yeah, particularly when things are going badly, and but I'd say to him, and I said, and this is where Robbie Nelson had it spot on. He couldn't give a shit what anybody said, and he didn't know what anybody was saying anyway, so it wouldn't have made any difference. But I said to Carl, "There's, why are you even bothered about what people are saying?" And I remember he had this fantastic idea. I don't know if either of you went to it, but with a meet the manager session, and I said, "Carl, this is a really bad idea. It's a really, really bad idea." I said, because one, you're likely to just get a load of people who are going to ask you the same old questions. You're going to give them the same old remarks. They're going to come out and say, "Oh, this is brilliant. It's no problem." Or you're going to get someone who's going to fuck you off, which he did, which turned out to be Sandy Gallagher.
Imagine that.
And his response to Ross was, "Well, why do you even bother coming then?"
To which Ross was, right, then I'll stop coming. And he's never been back.
That went down well.
Ross wasn't happy with that response, and I said, "Well, you asked the question, and he gave you an answer. What were you, when he can't say stuff like that?" I said, "Well, don't ask the question.
Yeah.
If you don't want an honest answer, don't ask the question." And that's why. I mean, I get moaned at quite often for people saying, "Well, you can't say fans are idiots," and I say, "Well, can, because they are." And if you don't want an honest answer to an honest question, and this is why this whole losing the dressing room, and there's arguments, and there's this, that, and you don't know that. No one knows that.
No, nobody does know it. This is what I'm saying. I mean, people say things like that, and I go, "What a load of shite."
The only people that go in the dressing room and are privy to that information or can see anything that's happening are the players, the staff, and the first team staff. And that is limited to the players themselves, the coaching staff, and maybe, in my case, the kit man, maybe an intern. But in general, it's a very, very... If the door is closed, once those people are in the dressing room, that door is closed and no one goes in. Not even... I mean, when the one occasion where I was there where the chairman went in, he got a mouthful. And, there were mutterings of, he shouldn't be here, he shouldn't be in the dressing room. And I totally agree. No one but those people should be in the dressing room, because it just doesn't work like that. And generally they don't care what anybody says anyway. So, but as the second they do start thinking like that, or they do start saying things like this lad said to this person on Saturday, when they start saying things like that, then I see a problem.
They have no respect for him, Tony.
That's the thing.
He was
That's the difference.
I've been reading a lot, and people are saying, "Oh, he's a manager, he should have done this and he done that." I'm not going to say he wasn't a manager, but at the end of the day, if he's asking them to do stuff, telling them, coaching them to do it, and they're not doing it, then he is more than partly responsible for his own fate, really, because if he's coaching them to do stuff, and we know for a fact that they're not listening, because he said it in his post-match interview on Saturday just gone, and Louis said it 2 or 3 weeks ago.
And Louis, yeah.
They don't listen, so if you've got kids out there and they're not listening, and they're being coached and they're being told what to do, and they're still not doing it, then the head coach, as he was, has to be a lot firmer and basically kick them up the arse, and metaphorically or quite literally, in some other cases, and say, what is the whole point? What is the point of you guys being here, basically? Because if we're asking you to do stuff, we're coaching you, and you're going out there and you're not doing it, I don't know what else to say. I mean, we said it, I think it was Dan that said it a couple of weeks ago, that out of these next, the 3 winnable games, we had to get a minimum of 7 points. There's 6 points gone there, and we've got 1. What can you say? I mean, we're at the back of that.
The maximum we can get now is 4 points from those.
And we won't get them, Tony. Games. We won't get them. We were sitting at the back of the cowshed on Saturday with my mate Andy, and like when that second goal went in, and I turned round to him, I said, he'll be lucky to see the weekend out, this bloke. I said, it's inevitable, he's just got to go, you know. I mean, I don't feel sorry for him, because, I mean, I don't have the capacity to feel sorry for people. It's a fault of mine, it really is. I just don't, you know. But it's, if I did kind of feel sorry for him, I mean, he's the public face of it, isn't it? I mean, like I was saying it, like last...
Do you feel sorry for him, John, though, because of the players aren't doing what he says, or because, and by your own admission, and I've said this a few times, we keep saying it's not his team. It's
not his team, I mean, but like his gig is, if you're working under a director of football like he has been, it's his job is basically just to coach them. I mean, I think, I'm not au fait with what, you know, the ins and outs of director of football, but like I was about to say, last season, you had Pete, you know, on YouTube all the time. You had Liam Sweeting. Like, I can remember listening to two podcasts where Liam Sweeting was saying how brilliant Scott Twine was, and he was great, and he was the League One Messi and all that. The only time I've heard from Liam Sweeting this season is bloody last weekend when they sacked the fucking coach. You know? So there you go.
Well, I said that Liam Sweeting was absolutely everywhere, you know.
Was, yeah.
I mean, I expected to walk into my kitchen and see him there having his breakfast. I saw him that many times.
But this season, Colin,
he was on all the podcasts, like you said. He was on MKDSA TV. I mean, he was everywhere.
Yeah, he was. Yeah,
keeping his head down.
So there you go.
Well, he has to be that face of the club at the moment, doesn't he? And this is a bit of firefighting and making sure that things remain calm. But I mean, going back to got to get 9 points from these games, or 7 points from the 9 points, and so on. That's gone. We've got Portsmouth on Saturday. I can't see us getting anything there. No. Last night there wasn't even a hint of a bounce.
Did you watch it?
No, I didn't even listen to it. But from what I was reading,
I watched it. So if you want any info out of that, I'll quite happily give it.
Well, I don't even see any much point in discussing
the games
Saturday or last night, to be honest, because it's.
Well, I will say something, Tone. I'll tell you what. The looks on those players' faces when them goals went in was absolutely bloody priceless, mate.
What, last night?
They looked bewildered. Some of them looked scared. You know, I mean, you know, oh, God, it was... I've never seen such appalling body language ever.
Well, conversely, the only thing I will say about Saturday is, firstly, the result felt exactly the same as when we lost to Southend that day and Carl went. Yep. It felt exactly the same because, in my mind, there was no way that day we could lose to Southend.
And we lost 3-0, didn't we?
We were comprehensively outplayed at the same time. Saturday felt very similar. And what I noticed was, and I did do a lot of people watching on Saturdays, when we scored, there was a massive level of excitement on the bench from the coaching team.
And from the players celebrating a goal.
Yeah, because they'd actually taken the lead in a league game.
Yeah.
And probably deservedly as well.
Yeah.
And it was a decent goal as well. It was a good goal, and there was nothing to suggest that we would then go on to lose that game. We might give away a silly goal again and end up with a 1-1, but I didn't think we would lose it. So the fact that we came away there without anything at all again told me, one, that we are that bad and we are going down as it stands, and two, I'm fairly sure he is going tonight.
I agree. I wrote my report on Sunday morning, and I said, as I was writing it, I'll be lucky to get this out before he's sacked. And I printed load and posted it on the concrete roundabout, and a couple of hours later he'd gone, mate.
Yeah, I mean, there was signs were there on Saturday that told me what was happening, especially after the game.
Late down for the interview after the game.
Yeah. So there was plenty going on during the game as well, and I thought, well, this isn't looking good. Something's going on. The FA were there, which caused major panic after it. It was hilarious. I've never seen anything like it.
What were they
I've
doing?
never had so much help from Well, I can only assume they were there as a sort of just to see how things work for the Euro. I mean, again, I'm just guessing here. I don't actually know the reasons why. I didn't see Callum at all on Saturday, and Callum normally sits with me at home games.
Do you think they were there trying to see how the Dons could cope with a really big crowd?
Yeah, I think they were looking at the women's the England game. Maybe that's it. That's what I'm thinking. So that, for me, that tells me that's why Callum wasn't there. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, I'll probably ask Callum at some stage, but for him to not make an appearance for the game is unusual. But he may have been tied down to that at the time. But the whole thing was just, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's done now. There's not really anything else to discuss. I don't really want to talk about Saturday. I don't really want to talk about last night.
You mean I paid a tenner for nothing?
Well, you can give us a 3-minute summary. Go.
Oh, they were bloody awful. They are.
Right,
Thanks for that.
Never looked like it. After about a minute, I regretted having a bet on it.
Let's go. Let's get through these because I have got. It looks like I've got quite a few replies actually since I logged off earlier. So we've got the standard email from Ross. It's a nice short one this week.
Is it talking bollocks or is it pertinent to what we're talking about?
It says hashtag MK Snow.
No, I'm not interested.
Hashtag take care Adam Fairs. Hashtag take. So thanks for that, Ross. On Twitter, I'll read Albie's message now. Let's get it done. He says, we're basically fucked and I don't know what we should do. I'm with you there, mate. The change should have happened a while ago, in my opinion, when we weren't so deep in the dung and had a chance of getting results from the second half of the season, but it is what it is. Who is a realistic, experienced head who could come in and get a worthwhile change from this squad? I struggle for many, if any, suggestions. Do we really go for a gung-ho young coach who'd offer either a Russell Martin uplift or a Machichi disaster? I don't know, but my guess would be the wisest choice an experienced head or someone ready to make the step up from a number 2 role to a first-team coach. I look at the likes of Richie Barker, which we've already discussed isn't going to be an option. But you never know in football. As I say, Richie was supposed to retire effectively after MK Dons, but he didn't. He's just gone to Derby and wondered if he'd be the ideal man if he were available. I don't think so. He's a great coach, but as a manager, no, I don't think so. But you take my point. Someone who knows what they're doing can get a tune out of a team and an overall good bloke, but fuck knows who. P.S. What is the most overrated Christmas song of all time, and why is it Fairy Tale of New York?
Can I ask you? We're just talking about prospective new managers. Do you write off people like Darren Ferguson? And I do, because I think that'll be totally in conflict with the Liam Sweeting role, where Darren Ferguson would want to be more hands-on, and I don't think the role of Liam Sweeting would allow that. Would you agree with that?
Yes, because he's a bigger personality than that, and he is a manager, and he's an old school. I'm the boss.
Because he's the favourite at the moment. He's the favourite. I mean, I know the bookies know Jack, but you know.
But you never look at the bookies, and I mean, seriously, come on. When has that ever come to fruition?
Well, yeah. You know, I mean, and who's the other one that's been up in the director's box?
Kenny Jackett, is it?
Kenny Jackett. Somebody said Kenny Jackett's been there 3 out of the last 7 games. He must be in the running. Well, my father-in-law sat out there 7 out of 7. So does that mean my father-in-law's in the running?
I don't know.
I mean, Darren Goff used to have a box.
He did, yeah.
Every game. Does that mean that he could do it as well?
Yeah. So, I don't. My guess is. I mean, I see Peter Leaven was mentioned the other day.
You see that Peter Leaven thing? He always pops up, and
He's
I'm just pretty sure that
he's not been mentioned. Yeah, he's mentioned.
Publicity is generated by Peter Leaven.
Yeah, I just about to say the only person that's mentioning Peter Leaven getting the job is him. You know, he's gone to the Daily Record. You know, that is
every time it comes up, he pops up.
It's his name. He's the only guy. I mean, honestly. Getting back to what you were saying,
says Peter Leaven would be interested, but no, I can't see it. Johnny G actually mentions Darren Ferguson, and he says he's the bookie's favourite. He's got a lot of qualities that we need to stay up in this division. However, I can't see the club hiring him due to historic off-field issues.
Would
hiring DF be a public relations disaster for the club in an already disastrous year? It don't work like that. If they want him, they're not going to be thinking about stuff like that. Football is notoriously notorious for forgetting stuff when someone becomes your manager.
Yeah.
There isn't. It ends up being, it ends up going from he drinks Stella to, well, yeah, let's give him a chance. He's the man, And as soon as he wins a game, it's the best thing we've ever done. You know how it goes. It's the same for every club. Like when Ched Evans went to Fleetwood, was that his first club after he come out of prison?
I can't remember.
Yeah. So moral issues there up definitely. Did he go to prison? I can't remember if he.
He did, yeah.
Or was he?
Yeah.
And who's the other one?
He was somebody's best friend in prison.
That annoying dance.
Oh, the guy from. Oh God, can't think.
West
Oldham.
Brom, was it West Brom?
Oldham, that guy. I can't remember his name. Getting back to what we were saying, I have genuinely, quite literally, no idea what they're going to do next. And see, to be quite honest with you, and this is a really sort of depressing thing to say, I don't think it's going to make any difference who they get in, because I think we are well and truly fucked. It's just...
Well, can I give you a quote, John?
Yeah, go on.
Can I give you a quote? On the BBC website, I noticed yesterday that they've quoted Pete Winkleman as saying, Don's owner expects brave choice.
Yeah, that's never a good sign, that, is it?
Well, that doesn't narrow it down, does it, really?
No, but is that slang for cheap?
Well, in Pete's case, always, yes, but this, I've got another one here from Steve Bottomley. He says, shades of Groundhog Day. This pattern is repeated by most clubs at our level. The crumbs of success dull the main courses of disappointment, but not for long. This is our lot. We can't change it. We have to accept it. Two people hold the power to make changes, PW and his accountant. And I think that's the most sensible thing I've seen from a Dons fan in about 20 years.
He works for the BBC, doesn't he? Steve Bottomley.
No, he don't work for the... I mean,
doesn't he?
He's a radio presenter, but he's not BBC, no. He's independent. But he I mean, that's a good point, because are we coming to the point, wobbly, wherever it is, we'll always be League One.
Yeah, we're lucky to be, like...
Are we not? Are we actually not special?
No, we're not. I think
we're not special.
No, we're not. I don't think we are.
Unfortunately, I genuinely think that if we go down when we go down, I think that's going to be a huge problem for us, because I genuinely, honestly think that if we go down like this season, we'll really, really seriously struggle to come back up again. And I'm talking for 4 or 5 years we'll be stuck in League 2, because there's some absolutely appalling decisions being made this year that are just going to have repercussions for years to come, and the only people that are to blame for that really are, I guess, the board. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know how it works, but behind the scenes, but they're the ones to blame for this.
I think it's historical lack of investment.
It is, yeah. It is. That's what it is.
And that is, as I've said publicly, a friend of mine offered 60 million quid championship season, and the chairman turned it down because he didn't want someone to just invest. He wanted someone to take over completely, which I can respect, because his main reason for that was he mentioned it. Did ever you see the podcast he did with Anthony Francillo?
When was that?
The other day.
Who? Yeah, on YouTube.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So about a third of that was relating to the Liam Manning going, and we're going to sort it and blah blah blah. The other 2/3 of that interview were basically him going back over the match day experience in a nutshell, and we're going to sort it again. We know there are issues, but I found it interesting that it wasn't even shoehorned into the interview. It was clearly an integral part of what was being said at the time, and maybe some. But again, we've heard that, and it's not so much, all right, you're going to sort it out, but how did you do to get to this stage in the first place?
It's a vicious circle, because the problem we have is, like, Pete's great mantra is, we don't want to stand in anyone's way. And, people continually say, like, we let, Harry Darling go, we let this guy go, we let the other guy go. The problem that it's a double-edged sword, because what you have to think is, if we get the reputation as a club that can develop players and, further their career, half decent guys are going to come here. On the other hand, if we had the sort of reputation where we take players on and then we turn around and say, no, you're going to stay here, then people wouldn't come here, would they? So you can't really win. But it is, like you said a minute ago, Tony, it's an unbelievable lack of investment on the football side of things. It really is. It's just, this season has quite literally, the aforementioned chickens have seriously come home to roost this season. I'm amazed that this shit, like, this is the first time this has happened, because, like, you can say what you like. We've said it on here. Darts, bloody snooker, gigs, women's Euros. Your bread and butter is what happened last Saturday. Yeah. Oh, you can laugh. If he could get 50p for someone turning up to play Shove Halfpenny, they'd shut the cowshed bar and hold it in there, mate. He would. He just would. I mean, good luck to him. He's a businessman. It is what it is. I mean, it's not a charity. You don't do it. Well, look at me. I've got a football club here. I'll waste all my money on it. It's a business, but it's a football business, and I think this is what's happened. It just is. It just bought a complete load of shit, lad. During the summer. I'm sorry for these kids. I'm not quite so sorry for them now. If one of them's sitting there saying, "I don't mind sitting here and getting paid $2,000 a week for doing nothing," but I guess inevitably this was going to happen, and it's happened this season.
Do you think it feels worse this season?
This is the worst it's ever been.
Off the field, because it's been so shit on the field.
No, it's just.
Do you think everything's just got worse? Everything.
That's what the club think, and it was interesting that he said, rather than saying, he worded it slightly differently. He said something along the lines of, and maybe it does make it feel worse when things aren't going so well on the pitch. But their initial reaction to the fans moaning about everything in general, as well as the football itself, was, it's because we're doing badly on the pitch. That was their initial sort of reasoning for it. Was, well, we're not doing well on the pitch, therefore they're going to moan more about what's going on. But yeah, that is probably true. You are going to moan more when it's not going so well on the pitch, but it's not anywhere near being the absolute reason for that a level of moaning from the fans. And it's not just the fans and a few, old bastards like us moaning that we can't get a coffee at half time or whatever. It's the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen people that I never thought would badmouth the club, people that I never thought would badmouth Pete Winkleman, and they're coming up to me and they're saying, this is a fucking shit show from top to bottom.
I've been doing it for weeks now.
They have. But I'm amazed. I'm amazed at some of these people. But there are still some people that follow this club that keep going, it'll be all right. It'll be all right. And I'll go, how the fuck can you be like that? I don't know. I've invested heavily in this club. And, not just sort of financially, but, spiritually, whatever you want to say. And I'm in despair.
People have stopped going. I mean, people that I know that have been going, I've been going since 2005, and I know for a fact that there are people that have been going longer than me that have just stopped going, and they've just stopped going basically because they just, we said last year, it's just a collective shrug of your shoulders. You think, just don't really know. I mean, I spoke to someone yesterday, our wholesaler that I go to, and he's a season ticket holder, and I said to him, I goes, I see old Manning's been sacked, and he goes, and this was his exact words, I'm not really I don't want you to think I'm a glory hunter, but I've not been this season. And he's bought a season ticket and he's not going, because it's just really don't really be arsed going. That's that. Oh, see that? See this sort of
on that basis, John. There was 5,000, nearly 6,000 reported to be at that game.
Well, there wasn't there.
How many do you realistically think there were there?
I reckon there was about 3.5, if you're lucky. But what I was saying is, I think the sort of
That's
collective.
a lot of season ticket holders not going.
Yeah, I mean, my son wasn't there, and he's got a season ticket. The collective, like, sort of shrug of your shoulders in, I can't really be arsed any longer. I think that's a particularly dangerous thing, because once that malaise sets in, just think, can't really be arsed going, what's on the telly, you know?
That sort of feeling when the Premiership kicked in towards the end of the 90s, and I could see the way that football was going, particularly in respect of the Premiership itself, I fell out of love with football, and I'm pretty sure, had it not been the fact that I had kids and I thought it was my duty to take them to see MK Dons, I don't think I'd be really watching football. I certainly wouldn't be going to watch a club.
Well, that's the only reason I'm going, because I took my son, back, for his birthday in 2005, and we've been going ever since. But just to reiterate what I said, I think this is a far more dangerous thing, this just kind of can't be arsed going, than it is when Robbie Nielsen was here and Mikichi, and people were angry, weren't they? They were angry. People are not angry now, they just couldn't give a shit one way or the other, and that is a death knell for any business, that is, if people just think just not interested. That's far more dangerous than people like writing on a bed sheet, one coming out and holding it up at the back of the cowshed. This kind of don't care, uninterested. That's far. That's a far bigger problem. That's a far bigger problem from the club than a whole load of people chasing Pete up the street, like they were a couple of weeks ago. That's the problem, The problem is that they've lost the fan base, and they just have. That'll take years to get this back. It just will. So, that's it. I don't care what anyone says. That's the problem, is just the complete lack of interest from people, That's the problem. I don't know how you can get that back. He's not going to get that back, because, it's just not... It's a terrible thing to say, but I don't think people trust Pete any longer. They just don't. You've come up, both you guys have come up with a brilliant argument as to why we have spent more money this season, but people don't believe it. They just don't, because they don't trust them. No. People don't trust them. It's as simple as that. It's a terrible thing to say. But
the thing is that those players that are earning whatever they're earning, the same players last year who we lost wouldn't have been far off those figures either. And believe me, our players, football is even in League One is comparatively speaking, is a very well paid profession. But I don't think people realise, how different it is between even Portsmouth compared to our wages, or certainly Sheffield Wednesday and Derby. Even clubs like Bolton at their lowest, and there was Coventry is another one. We are never and have never been able to pay the wages that other clubs, even in League One, are able to pay. Yes, we've got the stadium and we've got the facility. We haven't got the facilities. We haven't got a training ground. We play on a dog shit laden council pitch, but
we haven't got a training ground.
I don't know if it's been mentioned.
That's a new one on me. Thanks for that, Joe.
I just don't.
It's his 18th birthday this year, isn't it?
What, the dog shit?
Yeah, 18 years of not having a training ground.
Yeah, that. To be fair to the chairman, he did say many years ago that was the one thing that he didn't think about and he completely overlooked.
And the fan bar.
He's never admitted to that. No, he's never ever admitted to that.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe he should, but yeah. So the wages thing, those players that we've got, I'm fairly sure aren't earning any more, certainly, than those that we lost. And
no,
those are the.
You can't say Jack Tucker's on the same money as Harry Darling. No chance.
No, well, I would say
if he is, we're doing something bloody wrong.
I would say comparable. Because that's
really.
Well, there's no reason to.
That's a wage structure, isn't it? That there must be a sort of a wage structure, and they're expected to come here, and if you're playing in central defence and you're thinking, well, Milton Keynes play, I don't know, let's just say for the sake of argument, or they pay $3,000. Well, I want $3,000 if I go there. That's just how it is.
If you go back to the days of when Ryan Lowe was here, when Ryan Lowe left, he left a copy of his contract in his kit box at the stadium, and I was clearing it out, and his wages were £2,750 a week. And he was probably, at the time, the highest or one of the highest paid players at the club.
Right.
And when Carl Baker came here, he was still under contract at Coventry, and they made him an offer that he couldn't refuse, which was to pay him a certain amount of his contract for 18 months, not the full contract. They would pay X percentage of it for 18 months. And he was still earning more from his Coventry wages than he was at MK Dons. So there's that £2,750 that Ryan Lowe was earning was big money, is big money in League One. I mean, obviously wages have gone up and whatever, but nothing. Don't even consider that it would be anything close to what a Premiership player was earning at that time. What would that have been? 2013?
As much as these kids earn in a year, they'd be earning in a week. Right, I think, then.
Yeah, but Premiership wages in 2013 compared to what they are now,
not even close.
I think the average wage or something about 10 years ago was £7,000 a week, and everybody was like, oh, really? We all thought they were on 60, 70, 80 grand a week. But then wages started spiralling, and still are, I suppose, aren't they? But at this level, it isn't about wages. It's about, I mean, even people like when they don't always get paid a wage either. So players will go to clubs on a pay-per-play basis, and they'll get a certain amount a month, a certain amount a week or per game. And I was talking to one of our ex-players who went somewhere else, and he was telling me about his contract, and he only got paid if he played. So if there was a Tuesday and a Saturday game, he was quids in because he was getting £2,000 per game. But if he didn't play at all, or it was snowed off or whatever it might be, and he was getting goal bonuses and appearance bonuses on top of that. So it's all about the contract you get. But at this level, and this is one of the reasons I think we have the shorter contracts, is that although you could have the counter argument, if a player gets picked up by another club, then we would get a nice bit of compensation, or they have to pay the rest of that contract off. But it also means that if, as in with at least 17 of the players we've got, we would gladly get rid of them tomorrow, we would have much less to pay off on their contract than we would if they were on a 3 or a 4 year contract. So you're not going to see those massive amounts of wages on hugely long contracts unless you get a lunatic manager and a chairman who is happy for that person to be there. But I think we may be a little bit too far on the verging on cautious maybe when it comes to that aspect. I don't know, but yeah, it's a closely guarded secret as to wages and contracts and all that sort of thing.
Transfer fees.
Yeah, I can assure you that there is very, very little money ever changes hands at this level in terms of transfer fees.
Yeah.
Very, very rarely.
Let me try pulling it back, Tony.
Much bigger clubs.
Let me try pulling it back because we're going to have to start winding up. I'll ask both you guys a question. Do you think there's any feasible way we're going to get out of this shit that we're in?
At this moment in time, no.
No.
Not unless we invest a load of money, and I can't see that.
No, I don't. I think.
But what do we invest in?
What can you do?
Well, I mean, for one thing, who's going to want to come here?
The problem is,
you're going to end up with a load of players who are clearly not good enough.
You've got to get rid of some of these players at the moment. They're absolutely fire.
But then you've got to pay them off.
You've got to pay them off.
Can find somewhere
send the loans back.
Take over their contract. Send the loans back. That's not going to save you a lot of money.
I mean, how many? What, you could send Doyagoki back because he's useless. Like you said earlier, I think Cumming is going to go anyway, whatever happens.
You forget, John, Oyagoki, or was it Coyote? We fought a lot of people off for him. I mean, where they were.
God knows.
They're laughing somewhere, aren't they? I think. Has he played? Other than he played in the.
He played last night, Tone.
He played last night. He's playing in the paint pop game, so that's his season done then, isn't it?
No, you
pretty much. You're on back now. What about Dan Kemp?
Well, there's rumours that he's fell out with past coach. I mean, I don't know how true that was.
Well, I had heard very similar, and that his time is done, or was done.
Which was supposed to be going back in January, I was told.
I heard a rumour on Saturday. Someone said that Matt Dennis turned up for training late a couple of weeks ago.
10 minutes. 10 minutes.
So this is true, and they wouldn't play him. And I genuinely said to him, "I'll be honest with you, mate, the shit state we're in at the minute, if he turned up at 5 minutes to 3, I said, you're starting, Chief." But no, you think...
10 minutes later he turned up for training.
It's stuff like that.
See, if that's the case, there's no excuse for being late. Ever.
Well,
I mean, there's one thing that really surprised me about going into professional football was the level of, I suppose, strictness when it comes to things like being on time, using your phone,
flip-flops, Tony. Flip-flops. Flip-flops.
Flip-flops. Yeah, I mean, Robbie Nielsen made half the young players walk back from training. They wouldn't let them get on the minibus with me because they wore flip-flops to training.
Oh, Tony, you don't wear flip-flops to training, mate, obviously.
well, the worst thing about it was that they were wearing socks as well.
Oh, for God's sake.
I mean, they deserved
that, yeah.
Yeah, and fining players, they don't like being fined. It's not about the money, it's the fact that they got caught. So it is very much like that. And when there's a rule, because if you let that go, I remember we were in Ireland and Carl Baker broke curfew, and he, I think Carl fined him €600 or something. He literally picked a number out of his head and said €600, and Carl Baker was arguing till he was blue in the face, and Carl let him off. And I thought, well, that's just going to open the door to everybody going out on the piss till 2 or 3 in the morning, which we did, to be fair. But it was like, fuck it, it's pre-season, it's the last day, but we were allowed to do that, to be fair. But those are, there has to be, because they will take the piss. They will absolutely 100% take the piss. And if one of them sees that someone's been let off for being late for training, then they are going to think that I can do that now. I'm not, he's not been punished for it. I can do it. Also, it shows that doesn't matter who you are, albeit there is Matt Dennis, but it doesn't matter if you break the rules, then you will be punished for it.
Let me ask you a question then, Tony. If Will Grigg had turned up 10 minutes late, would he have been benched or not in the squad? The answer to that is no, he wouldn't have been. There's a hierarchy.
He would have been benched. The only person I've seen who got away with it is Dean Lewington. The day after in the promotion season, do you remember we lost 2-0 to Preston at home?
Yeah.
Around Christmas, it was in February actually. It was because it was my birthday week, and Carl said everybody's in at 7:00 tomorrow morning, and when he says everybody, he meant everybody, not just the players but all the staff. And I got absolutely hammered because it was my birthday weekend, so I didn't even bother going home. I slept in Carl's office, and I heard a door open at about 7:15, and I rushed out the back door of Carl's office so that no one could see me. I went into my laundry room and picked up a pair of boots and started cleaning them as if I'd been there for hours already. Well, I had been technically. And every single player was there on time except for Louis, and that's the only time I've ever seen anybody get away with it. I mean, he got a bollocking for it, but he wasn't punished for it. But again, the players are not necessarily going to object to that because it's Louis, but at the same time, he shouldn't have done it. And he apologised for it. It's about respect and respect to the rules. And when Lou will tell you, do you remember the Steve Cooper thing where he bashed into Steve Cooper and knocked him over?
Yes.
At Swindon.
Yeah.
As funny as we all think that was, and it was funny. He made a point of going to the Steve Cooper after the game and apologising in person to him. And he said because he's not our manager, but he is a manager. And there is a level of respect that you have to stick to, and that's why he went and apologised personally after the game for it.
Right, I'm going to interject because we've done 56 minutes.
I want to ask you a question.
Quickly then, because we've done 56 minutes and I've got to stay up for another 2 hours editing this crap. Go on.
Well, I think people will actually probably listen to this one.
I want to ask you both a question. It's a bit of an elephant in the room question. Because we know what's been going on in the last few weeks. There's more than one person that people are pointing the finger at. And a lot of people are probably questioning Pete. Obviously question Sweeten and what have you. But I've noticed a few times a statement's come out. And Luke Ashby kept repeating this over and over and again a few weeks ago. And it was, be careful of what you wish for. What is your feelings on that statement? Because I don't like it. You know what I mean? It's almost like they're trying to scare you away from saying or questioning whether Pete should, hand over the mantle or, or whatever. I don't know.
I don't think it really matters any longer.
It could be related to that, but I think the chairman is thick-skinned enough to not have to listen or not take any notes of that sort of thing. But personally, I don't think he's the sort of person that would say, "Oh well, fuck you all, then I'm off."
No, I don't think he is, but I don't like this people going, "Oh, don't say Pete should go because you never know what might happen." And my theory of it is it don't always go tits up. It does a lot, but it don't always go tits up.
He's been in the music business and now he's in the football business and he's indeed in just business. If you don't have a thick skin, in those three businesses, you might as well just forget it. I genuinely don't think he gives a shit what people think. I mean, I don't know him. I've spoken to him. I don't know. I mean, he doesn't know me from Adam. You probably know him better than anyone, any of the three of us, Tony. But I'm now of the opinion that I think, and it's a terrible thing to say, I genuinely think, I feel a little bit conned, to be quite honest, with the whole thing, because you've had all this thing, constantly you get beat about the bush, it's a property deal, it's this, that, it is, just this. And I don't really have a problem with that, but my problem is that you just think, I just wish if it is a property deal or darts or music or women's, Euros are, your priority, just say, I'm really sorry guys, but my priority is this. But he's never going to say that in a million years, is he? He's going to sit in one of those interviews with Anthony and he's just going to, sort of do what he did on Sunday afternoon. More power to him, good luck to him, it's his business. We're just fans, but he owns the bloody thing. So, we'll quickly wind it up because, like I say, we have now done an hour. What do you think is going to happen in, let's just pick some random figure, by the end of January? Where do you think and how do you think this club's going to be? What state are we going to be in by then?
If hopefully we'll have a manager by then. I don't know who it is. I don't care who it is. I'm not fussed. We need someone who can get us out of this shit. And at the moment, I believe that task could well be beyond even the best people. The best of managers, because what you've got in terms of a squad simply isn't good enough. The only plus side for me is that now with a new manager coming in, all of those I don't care if I still get my $2,000 a week comments are now out the window because every single one of them is playing for their spot, and the bounce back, the new manager bounce, as they call it, or the honeymoon period, isn't anything to do with how good a manager is. It's the players playing for basically their livings. Yeah. The uncertainty of, all right, so you could say, all right, even if the manager doesn't like him and he's still sitting on the bench earning his $2,000 a week, it's different this time because they have the opportunity to prove themselves, which would be a shame because then you think, well, why couldn't you do that for Liam Manning? But I can see at the end of January, I would say we'll still be in the bottom four.
I'd agree with that.
As it stands. Whether or not we'll be in a slightly better position in terms of how far away we are from safety, I don't know. But at this moment in time, with the players that we've got and the way that they're playing.
It's going to take till the end of January, obviously, for us to get everybody in. And then we're going to go through a little gel period, perhaps, of integrating these new players. I think by the end of January, mate, we could be in, well, past desperation.
There's the old...
There's not much hope at the moment, and a lot can change with a few wins.
I can't see us getting a new manager before Christmas.
I'm just going to cheer everyone up before we finish it. How many times have you heard this in the footballing world? The team that are rock bottom...
Morocco Equalised.
The team that are rock bottom at Christmas always get relegated.
Oh, yeah.
That's us. We've been had it. I don't think it'll make any difference what they do. So sorry to be finish on a massive downer, but it's not going to make any difference. It's too late. The stable door is well and truly been bolted, but the horse is 3 furlongs away. It's as simple as that. It's too little, too late now. Yeah. They can do whatever they like. We look
devoid of quality, confidence, everything. There isn't a positive anywhere.
There isn't, Colin. No, you're correct. It's a terrible thing to say. I can't.
There are nothing on the horizon to look forward to other than Jesus Christ himself stepping up.
This has been a fantastic podcast this week. This has, God's sake, cheer everyone up. Listen to this pile of shit.
I mean, there's. The light at the tunnel has now been at the end of the tunnel has now been switched off.
If there is a light at the end of the tunnel, it's a train coming the other way, mate. That's how bad things have got, if you ask me. Right, that's us done. That's what over an hour.
It's an angry mob with pitchforks and torches.
Yeah.
Right, so we will be back.
So I've got one more thing. I need to say.
Quickly. Oh, for fuck's sake!
One more thing. Totally unrelated to MK Dons.
Good.
It's not fusion again, is it?
I've just found out that my dad has once again been nominated or made referee of the year at 73 years old.
Good for him. I'm giving him a round of applause, Arm. Well done, him. Well done, Tony. What's his name, Johnny? Give him a name check.
Well, funnily enough, his name's Tony Hawkins.
Really?
I mean, I know some people probably do think I'm 73.
How original.
Right, we're done. Don't forget, we've got Leicester on Tuesday. Who have we got Saturday? Is it Portsmouth? I can't think.
Portsmouth away. Are we doing predictions or we don't care anymore?
No, I don't. Portsmouth on Saturday. And Leicester City on Tuesday.
I think Leicester
should be a good game. That I think we.
And Abacus on the goal, perhaps.
Yeah, that's going to be a cricket score. They're going to absolutely batter us there.
That would literally be men against boys.
It will be. Right, that's us done. I've got some new.
What about Saturday? Saturday prediction.
They'll fucking batter us. It's as simple as that. Everyone will batter us. They'll just.
I'm abstaining.
4-0 to them. 4-0 to Portsmouth.
Oh, okay.
Right, I've got some.
I'll say we won't score. There you go.
There we go. Right, I've got some new exit music, but it's only for this 1 week, so you two guys are going to have to listen to the end of this podcast to find out what that, what the exit music is. So,
that ain't happening.
Right, so there you go. So we will be back next week, and it'll be nearly Christmas, and I'll be on holiday, and I'll be ever so excited, and I might be slightly drunk, so I got that to look forward to. Right, we'll see you next week, where we will be even further in the shit than we are this week. See ya, bye.
See ya.
Put your sweet lips a little closer to the phone. Let's pretend that we're together all alone. I'll tell the man to turn the jukebox way down low. And you can tell your friend there with you, he'll have to go.